Hello, welcome on Al Control. It's been a long time. I'm Tatiana. I'm a French game designer and artist. I've been making alternative controller games, playful installations, and art games in general professionally for 10 years now. And I earn a living from Al Control. It's not a hobby for me, it's my job. And it's been my job for a while now. And interestingly, Al Control is more often than not perceived as not a serious business. And I'll just why in a few minutes, but today I'd like to talk about what is professional Al Control making and what does the life of a professional Al Control maker looks like. So let's get into it. Let's start with the question I'm asked the most. How do people making Al Control earn money? So let's get things clear from the get-go. We are not talking about making big money. I won't tell you how to make it rain. If you're watching this video to learn how to swim in dollar bills, you're in for a big disappointment. I'd say there are three main ways to make a living from Al Control. And the first distinction you can make is how you treat your work. Do you treat your alternative controllers as goods that you sell or as artworks that you exhibit? It doesn't have anything to do with being an artist or not. I'm not talking about labels and statuses. I'm just talking about the way you monetize your work. Selling alternative controllers is pretty rare for independent Al Control makers. It's something that is usually done by companies, like Nintendo is famous for their weird experiments. Big Ben Interactive was a company specialized in making Al Control for Nintendo consoles. There are some Japanese arcade companies known for creating original controllers, like the Namco with Panic Park or Taito with Chochabudai Gaishi. This is actually how Guitar Hero started. It was Japanese arcade cabinet in the first place, titled Guitar Freaks. But yeah, it's pretty rare for individuals or even human-scaled companies to sell Al Control, because if you want to make it a profitable business, you have to get into a lot of work that is not related to actually making Al Control. You will need to get into mass production, so you'll have to negotiate contracts with factories and work with lawyers to protect your work with patents. And if you don't, and your work is loved and enjoyed by the players, well, you will end up with your work being copied like it happened with Line Wobbler or Waterlight Graffiti. And all those shenanigans are a huge deterrent for Al Control makers. Usually we do Al Control because we want to make things. And on the other side, if you love business, there are other sectors that are way easier to profit from. But it's an option that crosses the mind of many Al Control makers, and some even give it a try. Like Robin serialized Line Wobbler for a while. He planned everything so it was feasible in Fab Labs, and if you actually choose this path, like Bumble Bear, which is a New York-based company co-founded by game designers Josh DeBonis and Nick Mikros, who make what's sometimes called new arcades. There are sort of custom arcade cabinets, and you can go on their website and actually buy one of their cabinets. And they are not just selling customizable cabinets like other arcade companies. They are really selling their work with their own games featuring special controllers. But as I said, this is rarely the path Al Control makers choose to take. Usually they will choose to work as artists, which means being paid to exhibit their work at an event or in a venue, a cultural place of any kind. And this is what I'm doing with my work in Megburned. This is where I can address the topic of why is Al Control perceived as a hobby, as just some pet projects bored or curious developers have on Sunday afternoons. The thing is, most people from the video game industry will hear about Al Control through else Al Control GDC or the Indiecade or maybe the Amaze Festival. These events are the main way to get exposure for our work, but they are not our clients because those are competitions. So usually they won't pay you to exhibit or not enough to actually pay your bills with that money. Some will pay for your travel or accommodation, but that's all. You actually pay paid to go there. So of course many out control makers at these events will be young people making their first out control, or students, or people doing it just to enjoy, basically people that can afford to, well, lose money in this. So you can exhibit at these events as a professional, but it will be a drop in the ocean of events you work with. There are ways to ease the costs of exhibiting there, or even to find deals that make it beneficial, like the Dumas Festival organizes each year this wonderful art residency called The Brain, which is paid, but clearly a professional out control artist can't survive only on those. And actually, if you make too much free exhibits, it can hurt your business. So professional out control makers, you'll find them elsewhere. Some of them have never set a foot in these events famous for out control. The professional out control network, I mean, where the money is not officially out control based. It doesn't have the name out control in it. So where are they? What are the events that are paying us? How do I earn a living with my work? Who's paying me? Obviously, places, people, and venues that are not directly or not at all related to the out control community. For most of us, money is coming from art venues, and especially the digital art world. You see, playful works became more and more popular over the past decades, and one of the reasons for that is that it brings a new and broader audience, people that potentially wouldn't come to traditional art events. Basically, playfulness is sexy. It's the era of entertainment and immersive experiences. An exhibit will be more successful in terms of business if it mixes art and the kind of fun you find in theme parks, and or if your museum has a high Instagrammable value. It's questionable, but it is what it is. And obviously, playfulness in art is not new. Since the 60s, we had many art movements that explored playfulness. I'm thinking about Flexus, Oulipo, the Surrealists, the optical and kinetic art scene. And even when it comes to digital art, there are playful installations that are as old as the digital art movement itself, so since the 80s. And even when it comes to actual game installations, we had things like Paint Station made back in the early 2000s. But it only grew bigger and bigger since the mid-20th century, basically. And so these playful digital art events, they come in different flavors. To give you an idea of the gap between these different art events, my two last biggest exhibits were Ready Players in February. It's an event in a big digital art venue at the center of Paris in a place called Forum des Images, a place usually dedicated to art and cinema, stuff like art house movies. And for the first time, they wanted to do what they usually do with movies, but with video games. And the other one was in March. It's the Jeff Festival in Belgium. This event is dedicated to art for kids. And I just made a bonus video about the Jeff Festival. You can check it out if you are interested. So, how do you go from making an out control one day during a game jam to being paid to exhibit? After talking with many developers for the past decade, I'd say there is a pattern for professional out control making. So there is not one specific path to take that will lead you to it, but for most of us, the journey looked like this. 1, you make an out control on your free time, like in a Fab Lab near you or during a game jam. Nowadays, you can find yourself making one during your studies with a specialized out control teacher like I am. 2, you apply to free exhibits and competitions for a time from around a few months to a year maximum. And if you find yourself enjoying it and want to make more, you need to 3, make lots of self-promotion online. So share pictures and videos of your stuff played in exhibits. And 4, based on those pictures and videos, events and venues will contact you to exhibit. And then for each out control maker, it will be a bit different, of course, but usually you have one first big hit that helps you get into this world. So for example, for me, it was Atsuno, and it looked like this. One, I made different games during game jams, and one of them was Atsuno. 2. I traveled around the world to show Atsuno at different events. 3. For each event I shared some pictures and videos. 4. Some events started contacting me to exhibit and paid me for it. And yeah, this is pretty much how things started to get serious for me. For Robin Baumgarten, it was the same with Line Wobbler. Now, as I said, it's different for each developer. When I was setting up Pied Bibi at the Jeff Festival with Olivier, my partner, there was this guy near us installing a game that looked fantastic. So I asked him a few questions and decided to improvise a quick interview to share his journey into the All Control realm. So meet Lieven van Veldhoven, maker of Room Racers.
My name is Lieven. I make interactive installations and I show them. So that started when I did my masters. The first week of the masters was a field trip to Ars Electronica Festival.
Oh.
And I saw things I'd never seen before. And I saw the electronic arts scene that I didn't know anything about. And it was the first time I ever saw projection mapping. So I think it was Pablo Valbuena.
Okay.
And it was a beautiful piece. And then I realized, like, I could do this, I could make this interactive. And then I basically started making things at home just for fun and to practice programming, because I wasn't really that good. I came straight from the bachelor's, but I didn't have any programming experience. So I made a few interactive things for fun, and I put videos on YouTube, and somehow magically the right people saw them, and I started exhibiting. I did this one, Room Racers. It looks like a mess now, but the idea is that you can use anything you can find to make a racetrack, and then you can race virtual cars around, and they will bounce off real obstacles. But because it's all real time, you can even put your foot down in front of an opponent, and then it will just bump into your foot. Yeah. So I did this one, and I have another game that's controlled by cigarettes. I made that one when the smoking ban was introduced, because that's when we all had to go to smoking areas, right? Designated smoking areas. And I hated them because the air was bad, there was no music, it was just horrible, right? So I felt bullied by all the non-smoking people that they basically just banned us to these smoking areas. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna make a game that's really fun, where you can only play if you smoke. And if you don't smoke, you can't play. So it's controlled by burning cigarettes. Uses an infrared cam, and that's smoke pong. So those were the first two I ever exhibited.
What year?
2010. I've been living off exhibition fees for 10 years now.
Okay.
Or more than 10 years.
How long did it take you to start making a living, at least a bit of a living out of it?
Well, I guess at least a year.
It got better with time.
With every exhibition, I started to ask more money.
Yeah.
So it started off with like for free, and then maybe $100, and then like 250, and then 500, and then 1,000, and then it started to be worth it.
One day the million. One day. So Lieven has been doing All Control for longer than I did. He knows people well connected to this field like Phoenix Perry and Alistair Aitchison, and yet he's never been to any of the biggest events in the All Control field, and never heard of some of them like the All Control GDC, because he's actually living from his work. So there's no incentive for him to work with these events. It's no surprise that many, if not most, most All Control devs are not connected to the All Control world, considering the disconnection between the art and game industries. This is what drives me to make these videos, the Beyond Screens All Control show on the Indicate Twitch channel, and why initiatives like Shake That Button are so important to me. The official All Control community is ridiculously small as compared to the All Control makers staggered on the planet. 2 years ago, I was scrolling memes on Imgur, and out of the blue, I stumbled upon the incredible works on Built by Blatt. I can't believe I've never heard of him from All Control channels. Before I move on to the last part of this video, let me know in the comments if you know any playful artists who deserve more love and recognition. I'd love to talk about them in the future. So I said there are 3 main ways to make money from All Control, but only mentioned 2 of them. What is the third one? Well, the third one is having side gigs. I know it sounds obvious, but bear with me, there is a twist. So the crushing majority of All Control makers have side gigs. Making All Control games requires very marketable skills like programming and working with electronics. Many All Control devs have the profile to be creative technologists, and those with a more artistic fiber will be graphists. Some can work in sound design, for example, but these side works can be related to All Control. And actually, this is how I started earning enough money to pay my bills with All Control. The first money I really made with All Control was by designing and developing game installations for communication companies and brands. Like I made Virtual Tiebreak, which was made for the WTA finals in Singapore, and my client was a French bank called BNP Paribas. It's actually not that uncommon. This is also how the French collective Studio Briand made most of their money. They worked with Nike, IKEA, Peugeot, and much, much more. The wonderful Japanese All Control artist Takahiro Miyazawa, that you may know for his work on Runes Climber, that was at the All Control GDC in 2019, also worked with French wine brands on interactive installations for their showroom. And there are other industrial fields where to find work for All Control makers, like museums that want to make their content a bit sexier. If you're interested in this specific aspect of interactive art, you should definitely have a look at Museumix. It's basically a game jam inside museums, but the point is not necessarily to make a game, but to make part of the museum's collection interactive and fun somehow. And beyond museums, personally, I also work for escape rooms, as it's a really competitive industry and a very saturated market. Escape rooms makers are sometimes looking for people like me to make an All Control based riddle that will help them stand out by making a game that goes beyond the traditional, searching the room to find a code that opens a padlock, and so on. So yeah, you can also end up making All Control professionally by working in the escape room industry. And there are much more fields I didn't mention, like sports and fitness centers. Accessibility is another one I didn't mention. And I assume theme parks have R&D engineers working on contraptions close to All Control. If you know of someone doing this, please let me know. I'd love to interview someone working in theme parks. So this was a quick introduction to the life of a professional All Control maker. For another perspective on the business model of alternative game controllers, you can watch the 1 hour long interview Jerry Bellish gave on the Alan Zucconi's YouTube channel. You'll find it in a playlist of mine titled All Control Related Talks. Thanks a lot for watching, and until next time, take care and be playful. Bah voilà.